Alrighty guys, how are my little meatloafs doing? I hope you guys are all doing really good. So yesterday we started our unit on statistics, and today we're going to continue on talking about statistics. So today we are going to talk about dot plots, and remember you should be turned to the next available page in your notes book, and you're going to start by putting the header Intro to Statistics Part 2, and then right under that you're going to go ahead and write dot plots and underline that so that you know that this is where you're going to find the information about dot plots in your notes. And then go ahead and write example. What is the weight of a mouse? All right. And so if you are a slower writer and you're trying to write really neat, I applaud you for doing that. Go ahead and pause the video and catch up on writing, and then just press play when you're ready to continue, okay? All right, so the first part of this question is this a statistical question? Is it a statistical question? So you got to think critically. When I ask, what is the weight of a mouse, is that a statistical question or is that a survey type question? Well, first of all, can you ask a mouse a question? You're probably not likely to get an answer, unless maybe you're Dr. Dolittle. So when we look at this question, in all seriousness, you have to think about, well, perhaps I have a mouse and I can weigh that one mouse. That one mouse might weigh, I don't know what mice weigh, maybe 8 ounces, okay? But just because that mouse weighs 8 ounces, that doesn't mean that all mice weigh 8 ounces. So when you ask a question like, what is the weight of a mouse, you would expect that you're going to get some kind of a range. So you're probably going to get a range of like what the low weight of a mouse might be and what the high weight of the mouse might be. And since you're going to get a range, that tells you that it's variety. And if there's variety in the answers to that question, it is a statistical question. So the answer is yes, because you would expect to get a variety of answers because mice weights vary. Okay. All right, and again, if you're still writing that, that's okay. Pause the video. That's the nice thing about these videos is you can pause them. All right. Even if you're coming back to get the notes better, because in the live lesson, maybe I went a little bit faster than you can write. Okay. So remember to pause them. All right, so now we're going to look at the second part of the question. The second part of the question is, we've been given a graph, a table that includes a lot of different weights. See, it says weights in grams of mice. These are the weights of mice, okay? And it says to display the data in a dot plot and identify any clusters, peaks, and gaps. All right, so dot plots are kind of fun because you get to create a plot, okay? So I'm going to show you how do you create a dot plot. Okay, so I'm going to start, I'll come down about this far on my paper, okay? And I'm going to make a number line because we are going to be dealing with numbers, aren't we? Okay. And there I go. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan very carefully through my table. And I am going to look for my lowest number. So I've got 18. I continue through. There's another 18. But I don't see anything below an 18. So I know that 18 is my lowest number. So just to make my number line look good, I'm going to start with 17. Okay. And then I'm going to look for my highest number. Okay, so scan through my list. Okay, so in that column it's a 28. Keep looking. There's a 27, but 28's still higher. 28's the highest. Okay, great. So 28 is the highest number. So I'm going to come over to this end, and I like to cover one extra number. So I'm going to put 29. Okay, so now in between here and here, I am going to number as evenly as possible. You don't want any big gaps, but you know, it can happen, so just be careful. Okay, so right here I have 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and remember you're doing this in pencil, so even if you have to erase and just move your end a little bit, you can. And I'll do that in 2 seconds just so you can see what I mean. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, actually I might not have to, 28, but if I had to I would just rewrite 29, draw my arrow, and then if you were erasing, you would just erase. I have this wonderful whiteout strip. Okay, so there I go. I have my my number line, and I go from my lowest number to my highest number. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I am going to take all of these numbers and I'm going to put them into this number line. And this is a dot plot. So we're going to place dots, okay? So I'm going to start at the beginning and I'm going to look at number 20 and I'm going to come over to number 20 and I'm going to put a dot above number 20, okay? And to tell myself that I've already done it so I don't lose order, I'm just going to put a little check there to keep track that I did it, okay? Then I'm going to go to the next one, number 18, and I'm going to put a dot there. And I'm trying to keep them as even as possible. I want them to be about the same height, okay? So now I did 18. Now I'm going to go to 28. Okay, and I'm going to keep on going every time I plot one. Oh, look, I've got another 20, so that means I need to go above it and add a 20. Because right there it shows me so far I have charted 2 20s. Okay, 19. And I'm just going to continue through 19 again. 20 again. 23. That's our first 23. So it goes down there. 21. 22. Third column, 21. 27. 20. 18, 21, 20, 21, 19, 27. Notice it's very important that you keep them pretty much evenly spaced. Notice how it's very neat and organized. If you get messy on this, you're going to have some issues. And 20 again. But in general, I went a little bit crooked on that one, but in general, they're pretty spaced well. You can see the lines going straight up of the dots. You don't want them too close that you can't differentiate between dot to dot. But you just want to make sure that it's neat and organized. Okay, so that, my friends, was the first part. That was the display the data in a dot plot. That's what we did. Check, done. That was easy, right? Okay, the next part says to identify any clusters, peaks, or gaps. Okay, so let's think about this. I'm going to move this up a little bit so that we can write below, okay? When I look at this dot plot, I can identify clusters, peaks, and gaps, okay? And so think about, first let's look for clusters. Think of a cluster as a group. You've probably heard the word cluster, like if someone tells you don't get into a cluster in the hallway, you need to stay in a line, no grouping, no groups. Okay, so clusters are groups. When you look at this, can you identify any groups? I know I can. Okay, so for groups, I definitely see a big grouping right here. Don't you see a big grouping right there? I don't know if I would consider this necessarily in the group, but it sort of is because it's like right next to it. So I would say that there is a cluster between from 18 to 23. Okay. And then if I look over here, I see a little cluster. So I might say a small cluster from 27 to 28. All right, so we've looked for clusters and we've identified them. The next one is a peak. Think about peak. When you think about a peak, you think about mountains, a mountain peak, the top of the mountain. Do you see a peak? Is there an identifiable peak? So if you did not see a peak, all the dots would be mostly even. You wouldn't see an up and a down going on, okay? So I wouldn't consider this a peak. It's only 2, okay? But clearly right here, there's a peak. So you could say there is a peak at 20, right? Because that's 20, okay? And that's like the very top of all our data. It's not even. There is a peak. There's a high point in that data. All right, and then the last is, do you see any gaps? And I think you guys probably noticed there's definitely a gap right in here. There's no data in here. None of our mice were this weight. So we have a gap from 24 to 26. Alrighty guys, so today you have learned how to create a dot plot. And hopefully you did this really neatly and very carefully in your notes. If you did not, try going back and fixing it and organizing it, because this will be very helpful for when you do your practice activity. You are going to have to create a dot plot, and you're going to have to submit that to me. So make sure that you're able to do this very neatly, and I have to be able to read it. Remember, if I can't read it, I ain't grading it. So make sure I can read it. Alrighty, guys. Have a great day.